Good morning. Thank you. Wherever you're watching us from, thank you for joining us. We want to just bring you to a notification of one of the very daring questions a lot of people has been asking to know the viability of restoration of Biafra. It's all about Biafra. I'm talking about this morning. A lot of questions have been put out there, both locally and internationally. People are trying to find out, especially Biafrans, what actually can one actually do, to restore Biafra, recognize for the world to actually recognize Biafra. Is there any possibility, in that regard, considering the fact that United Nations currently now is maybe possibly, showing lack of obligations to their responsibility, and also we have, some major, organizations like the United Nations and the EU. Is there any possibility that these organizations and blocs, especially the European Union, can actually, do something about, Biafra? We know the history of Biafra before now, how it came to be, and how it became, a global identity for the people of old Eastern, region. Then we'll have Ojuku there. Then later on we'll have Wazirike. Then we'll have, the supreme leader of the IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who gave everything credibility and credence. I'm not trying to say that a lot of people, the other people, did not contribute, but Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been very outstanding in the struggle to restore Biafra. I want you to just calm down and listen to the analysis, responding to a lot of questions that were being put to me to clarify, whether Biafra is possible or not. Let us look at the, United Nations, how United Nations came to be, and we also look at, the EU, countries, because EU is a bloc, a regional bloc, and they are seen to be very, powerful, organizations that can unsettle a lot of things, but United Nations came into being on 24th October 1945. Immediately after the Second World War, the U.S. government felt that they need to avoid another world war, and the only way to do that is to engage in nations around the world. The issues that actually triggered, that conflict as at that time. Yes, it came founded in October 2024, 24th October 1945, with a purpose. What is the purpose? International peace and stability, promotion of human rights, cooperation among nations, and of course international development of the global world. That's one of the reasons why United Nations was actually, formed. And when it was formed, subsequently, it has about 51 countries solidly, being part of that. And we have had so many, United Nations Secretary Generals, but presently now it is in the hands of Antonio, Guterres, a Swiss, yeah, citizen, a Switzerland citizen. So also, apart from 51 countries, who are part of that, then they have what they call, member states, making up to 193, member states, and then apart from that too, let us also look at EU. This analysis is very important for you to know and be able to understand the direction on the possibility of Biafra, because Biafra was a nation before, and is still a nation, but Nigeria have not been able to respect the ceasefire agreement between Biafra and, of course, Nigeria immediately after the civil war came to an end. A lot of people might not say have a different opinion to this, but that is actually what happened. What Nigeria and Biafra had a ceasefire, and there were conditions for that ceasefire, which Nigerian government actually relegated. Just like what we see about Gowon and the rest of them. So what they did is to begin to push for dismantling of the Biafran structure within the Nigerian state. Remember, we'll still come to that United Nations Charter guarantees the right for self-determination, and that is a right up to this moment. It's just that United Nations has not been able to fulfill some of those things. Then let us come to the EU. EU was founded in 1st November 1993. That was when EU was founded. EU was formerly European Economic Community, established in 1957 by a treaty in Rome. Currently now, the EU have 27 states, even though I will still believe that it is a regional bloc. Why there's a reason why Britain actually pulled out. Then let us look at the factors that can trigger international consideration of Biafra. Let us look at the factors that can trigger international consideration of Biafra. Biafra is already a popular name all over the world now. It was not what it used to be before, courtesy of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, resilient, spirit. We must give it to Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, the IPOB leader. Then, on that note, there are reasons why those things can come, and on that note, especially when it comes to Nigeria, Biafra. Since their negotiation between Biafra has actually collapsed, and Nigeria has actually collapsed. Settlement has never been agreed upon, just like what Mazen Nnamdi Kanu said initially. There was conditions Mazen Nnamdi Kanu put out there before he now decided that those conditions that cannot actually hold waters again, and it's still very, very significant in the issue of extreme marginalization against the Biafrans in the old eastern region. I don't know why Nigerian government is jittery about that. Anyway, then another factor is the issue of resettlement or of human rights abuse. You can see a lot of things, human rights abuse, about the Biafrans all over the world. Currently in Nigeria, you can see what is actually going on. Then that is on that note. Can they respect? Can Biafrans, if actually they are being considered for sovereignty by these nations, then we are going to come to that. If the United Nations have the right to do that, whether EU have the right to do that, and if they don't have the right to do that, then what are the options? And to tell you that the possibility of that, having checked everything now, Nigeria, Biafra has already submitted their secular constitution to the United Nations, documented, reported, and signed, acknowledged by the United Nations agencies. Then they have also looked at the broken political negotiation between Biafra and Nigeria. That one is no go area. No, then the issue of human rights abuse. That's what Mazen Nnamdi Kanu brought to the table. Non-violent approach that sees that. Then effective governance. That's the structure of IPOB. Currently now. I can see how they are able to run. Government comes, government goes. And then the DOS is still there, and IPOB is still there. Then regional and international, impact on regional security. Then what that actually mean? Can Biafra as a nation be able to maintain regional peace? You know, Biafra is located somewhere in West Africa, and we have West Africa is a block. You know, and there are traces that the Biafrans can be able to maintain a relationship with their neighboring countries around the world. Then the qualification, for EU and the United, Nations, recognition. What are the qualifications? Can this EU, can this UN, consider, Biafra, or is Biafra actually qualified to become a nation? Let us look at those things that makes qualification of a nation or recognition of a nation, the way it is now, very possible. One is right to self-determination, population, that's United Nations. Biafra has the population close to 85 million people. Then respect for, I've already explained that. Does they have the capacity? That's what the DOS is doing now. Trying to establish liaison, Biafra liaison offices and embassies, where they can engage in a diplomatic, rapport with nations and other agencies who are responsible for sovereignty or self-determination for any nation or any tribe, seeking sovereignty or in the order of United Nations. What about the territory? Permanent population. I've explained that is already there. Effective government. That's what IPOB and Biafran government in exile. A lot of people do not understand why Simon Ekpa is very important and also very smart. There's a parallel government, meaning that Biafran government is in existence. That's what they call Biafran Republic government in exile. People does not know the significance of that. So that's what the world is actually looking at, and you can see over some time now, Ngozi Rabeza has been maintaining that line, and why Martin Nnamdi Kanu, are maintaining the structure, a body, who is lobbying around the world to get Biafra recognized. Capacity to engage the international community, internationally. DOS is also, that's what the reason for DOS. All those appointments are part of it. Capacity to engage, yes, and I can tell you, this present DOS now, you can see the caliber of people Mazen Nnamdi Kanu brought to the fold. Then peaceful and democratic law. Yes, I told you that we have already submitted that. That has to do with regional stability, diplomatic ties, international support. Just like what Mazen Nnamdi Kanu did recently, where he wrote to about 72 countries, identifying them. There's a change in the structure of government of the DOS and the responsibility of DOS currently now. That's the reason why for that appointment. A lot of people might not understand what is actually going on, but I can tell you that this guy is Mazen Nnamdi Kanu is completely in order, flowing the process of international requirement for that. Then another factor we are going to look at, like just put it that way, what can we do after all these qualifications? Yes, Biafra is qualified to be a nation. That is one, qualified in all ramifications: territory, waters, everything, human, police, army, whatever, government and other. That the reference point is Biafran government in exile. And the structures of IPOB and ODOS. They have already been identified. Globally around the world. Then that have to do with policy. Unilateral drafting of Biafra. Then let me just tell you, some countries like the EU might not have that power to draft, to guarantee a draft for Biafra recognition. What that actually means is that EU member states can. I hope you understand what I'm saying now. The law empowers EU member states to recognize a nation, but not the power does not give it to EU as a bloc, but member states can recognize a nation. And that is what exactly what Israel did with Somaliland. And by that recognition, it will trigger all United Nations and EU bodies, to factor the responsibility of recognizing such authority, because it is a sovereign nation that actually recognize that particular nation seeking for self-determination. And that is why we are asking United States and Israel to lead in that regard. But remember, the UN Charter in major human treaties, is self-determination. I think I've explained that. United Nations in one of the major thing was or treaties they entered was centered on human rights and, of course, self-determination. Then we also look at the support by other sovereign states. That's what I said, that's why we are looking at Israel. And we are looking at other countries. Already we have about 11 countries who are already putting signatories to that, pending the official recognition. Whether you are a member, this thing that has nothing to do with AU or ECOWAS or no, because the international law, hold more ground than regional and even in the United Nations. United Nations might not come out to say that, but member state of the United Nations can actually do that. And Biafra have made all the requirements. I repeat, Biafra have met all the requirements. And that goes further to tell you that there is very possibility that this thing will, Biafra as a nation will come. Let me give you an instance before the end of this video, and specifically, then we have after that the UN have 193, member states, while EU have 27 member states. According to international law and treaties entered on recognition and self-determination, these two blocks, have the sole responsibility to empower and allow their member states to do that, having met the requirement, like I've just gave it to you. One is population, one is constitutional and respect for human rights. Then, and secondly, territory, waters, territorial waters, can the population themselves, do they agree to that? And that is what they call referendum. Do they agree? You can see, the massive support when IPOB was doing the rally. All those things were being documented. You can also notice the abuse from the Nigerian government, on the shooting and killing of people who are, rallying and demonstrating for the struggle and recognition of Biafra. I want you to look at this video clearly, and I can tell you very clearly that IPOB, TOS, Biafra government in exile are in order, and this is what will trigger the recognition of Biafra. We just need just one state, from the EU bloc, or a member of, or just a sovereign nation. The standard is that a sovereign nation, and that's why I use Israel as an example. Once it's been done by a sovereign nation, it enters it's in line with agreement of the EU requirements and, of course, the United Nations. So the possibility of Biafra coming is 101%. Then we'll also use this opportunity to celebrate Biafrans all over the world, celebrate Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, irrespective of the conflicts that are going on within the structure. And I can let me just give you a final note on that. I will not repeat such thing again, but my loyalty is to Mazen Nnamdi Kanu until further notice. Then on the other angle too, we know that he's going to be set free in that regard. Ojukwu actually started Radio Biafra. It went moribund later. Wazirike came, because of financial obligations of that, the whole thing died. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu now came into the picture, worked for some years, put in his money, revived Radio Biafra, and did all the modalities of legitimacy surrounding Radio Biafra outside the country and within, and it was guaranteed, and that was how Radio Biafra actually, began, and that's exactly what also Mazi Nnamdi Kanu did for an organization like the IPOB. So we must give it to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu